Is there a toxic relationship in your life that drains you? You probably just thought of someone specific, whether it's a coworker, family member, or friend. Toxic relationships steal your joy and pull you away from God's purpose for your life. Dr. Gregory Jantz's new book, Difficult People, gives you 4 key steps to move from anxiety to peace. Get your copy at focusonthefamily.com.
Life Audio.
Welcome to the Untangling Prayer Podcast. I'm Rachel Wojo, and each week we unravel life's knots through prayer. Here you'll find practical wisdom and prayer encouragement to guide you through life's hardest seasons. Join me as we untangle life's messes together, one prayer at a time. Untangling Prayer Podcast. I'm Rachel, and I'm so glad you're here. I want to start by asking you something, and you already know the answer if it's you, but is there a fear that waits until dark to show up? You're fine all day, you're busy, you're handling things, you can function, and then you turn off the light and your head hits the pillow, and the same thought you outran all day is suddenly standing right there in the room with you, bigger and louder than it ever was at noon. If that's you, this episode is for you. Today we're talking about how to pray when fear and anxiety get loud, and especially how to pray at night when everything feels worse and the morning feels a long way off. We're going to look at a story that most of us are familiar with, Daniel in the lion's den. But I want to show you a person in that story that you may have not really looked at before, because there's somebody in Daniel chapter 6 who didn't sleep at all at night, and it wasn't Daniel. So let's get into it. But before we do, I want to be sure you know about my free guide. I created this just for you. It is the Pray Through It Battle Plan. And this free guide allows you to take that fear that's running loose and pray it down. You name it, you find the truth that answers it, and you hand it to God instead of holding it by yourself at 2 a.m. You can grab it for free at battleprayers.com, and I'll leave the link in the show notes for you. And now for this week's segment of Questions in Hard Spaces, where I answer the hard questions about prayer that people email or DM me. So this week's question comes in a lot of different forms. Sometimes people even text me a question very similar to this, but the question, the way one listener read it or sent it, is, why do I still feel anxious after I pray, especially at night? Am I doing something wrong? Is my faith weak? And the first thing I really want you to hear me about this is that feeling anxious after you pray is not a sign that you failed or that something is broken in your faith. Prayer is not an automatic switch for your nervous system. You can genuinely hand something to God, but your body takes a while to catch up to that sometimes. And it's just an exercise in belief. It's having a human body with a body and a brain that maybe has been on high alert all day. So why does it get so much worse at night? Well, let's look at some honest reasons. Number one, there's nothing left to distract you, right? We're so good at distractions. There are no tasks. There's no one to talk to. It's just you and the thought has your full attention. All the things that comfort us during the day, being able to do something about it, or call someone, or text someone, make a plan. Every one of those is out of reach at 2 a.m. So you're lying there holding that fear with empty hands and nothing to do with it. I want you to hold on to that picture of the empty hands, because that's where we're headed when we get to Daniel. Before that, let me answer the practical part of the question. which is, what do you actually do in that moment when you're struggling? The biggest thing I could tell you is don't wait until you feel calm to pray. Pray while you're still shaking. You don't need to settle yourself down first and then come to God after you have yourself together. Just come to Him like you are. And you hear me say that often, but it's true. That is prayer, and God hears it. At night, the goal is not to argue yourself out of the fear. You are probably not going to win a debate with your own anxiety at 2 a.m, right? Because that was never the assignment. The goal is just to not be alone with that. You're taking the fear out of that loop in your head and moving it into a conversation with the Lord. He's the one who's awake all night anyway, right? So you stop being alone with it. And that changes more than you would think. I hope this has been helpful. I want to pause for a moment. Thanks for listening in to this segment of Questions in Heart Spaces. We'll be right back after this brief word from our sponsors.
Is there a toxic relationship in your life that drains you? You probably just thought of someone specific. Whether it's a coworker, family member, or friend, toxic relationships steal your joy and pull you away from God's purpose for your life. Dr. Gregory Jance's new book, Difficult People, gives you 4 key steps to move from anxiety to peace. Get your copy at focusonthefamily.com.
Thank you for allowing that word from our sponsors. And now for this week's segment of Pray More, Worry Less encouragement. Today's principle is one that I want you to really sit with for a moment. The night is where you wait, but it is not where God starts His work. He's already at work in the dark. And let me show you what I mean by that. We're going to stay right in Daniel chapter 6. And you probably know the heart of this story. You've probably heard it before, but Daniel's enemies are jealous of him. So they trick King Darius into signing a law that says for the next month, 30 days, anyone who prays to anyone other than the king is going to be thrown into the lion's den. And Daniel goes home and prays to God exactly like he always has. Windows open 3 times a day. Not hiding any of it. He turns his face toward Jerusalem, but the law is the law. He is caught and thrown into the den. And God shuts the mouths of the lions. Daniel is completely fine. We know this part of the story, but I want you to back up to the nighttime because there's a person that it's easy to overlook. It's not Daniel down in the den. It's Darius up in the palace. Listen to what Daniel 6:18 tells us. After Daniel is thrown in, the king goes back to his palace and spends the whole night without eating, with no entertainment brought to him. And then there's this line that he could not sleep. Sleep would not come to him. Now, the verse tells us the king couldn't sleep. It doesn't actually explain why. But if you think about it, you don't have to guess very hard, do you? Think about who this is. This is a man with enormous power. He's running an empire. And that night, every bit of that power was stripped from him. He had signed a law that he could not unsign. He couldn't get to Daniel. The one thing he wanted to fix was the one thing entirely out of his hands. So he paced all night. And I think that's the most relatable picture of nighttime anxiety, maybe in the whole Bible. You know, Darius isn't lying awake because he doesn't have enough faith. He's lying awake because he is holding something that he cannot control. And the darkness has given him nothing to do with it. Does that sound familiar? Is that you at 2 a.m. with the diagnosis you can't change, or the bank account you can't fix, the kid who maybe won't call you back, and there is nothing that you can do about any of those things until morning? You have empty hands in the dark, and that was Darius. Maybe it's you. But the whole reason I wanted you to see Darius is because While he was pacing his palace all night, unable to do anything, God had already shut the mouths of the lions. The rescue that Darius was so desperate for was already happening down in a den he couldn't even see into. He just had to wait until morning to figure it out and to find out about it. So let me bring this home for you. When you are awake in the dark, holding something you cannot fix, you are like Darius. And the same thing is true for me. And the same thing is true for you. The same thing is true for him. God is not waiting for the sun to come up to work on your behalf. He's been at work the whole time you've been lying there afraid. The morning doesn't make it true. The morning just lets you see what God has already been doing the whole time you were sitting in the dark. That's how we can pray more and worry less even at the worst hour of the night. Not because we can see the rescue. Darius couldn't see it either. But because God, who never sleeps, is already down in the lion's den, doing the very thing you've been begging him for while you wait for the light to come up so you have the chance to see it. Thanks so much for listening in to that segment of our podcast this week. And now for this week's answered prayer story, I'll be honest with you. It's kind of small. It's mine, and it might even be too simple for you to grasp everything that I am trying to get you to see here. But I just thought I would share this very simple story. When my son was little, he went through this stretch where he just couldn't fall asleep at night. This went on for a while before he finally told me what was going on, and he was convinced there might be a monster in his closet. So I did what you do. I turned on all the lights and I opened the closet door and I showed him. No monster, buddy. Look, nothing in there. Showing my son that empty closet did not put him to sleep. He still lay there awake. There were two issues: knowing the monster wasn't real and actually feeling safe enough to close his eyes. These were completely two different things, and I had handed him the proof, but his body had to catch up with it. Praying for him is what finally settled him down. We prayed very simply. I don't even remember the exact words, but right there in the dark, it was something like, "Help me stop thinking about a monster in the closet." And after a little while, he fell asleep. I think about that because it's the exact kind of prayer, the grown-up version of what we need. You've already turned on the light. You already know in your rational mind that the worst case probably isn't actually in the closet, but your body is trying to catch up with it. And it's not until you stop holding on to the fear all by yourself and hand it over to God that you'll find the relief. The monster and the thing keeping you up at night are really the same thing, wearing different clothes, but prayer works for both. If you're someone who lies awake holding fears you just can't turn off, please hear me. I don't want you to push your way through another night. And that's one of the reasons why I created the Pray Through It battle plan. It walks you through taking one specific prayer, the one that's loudest for you maybe right now, and praying it step by step so you're not lying alone there in your own head. This guide is completely free at battleprayers.com, and the link is in the show notes. Go grab it before the next time the light goes off. And if these night battles are something you walk through pretty often, I've actually written a whole book about exactly this, about praying through the hard and the dark and the things that feel so much bigger than you are. It's called Praying Through Life's Battles, and it releases August 25th. I'll be telling you a lot more about it in the upcoming weeks, but it is available for pre-order right now. And if you do so, you can also download the digital version to start reading right away. Go to battleprayers.com for all the details. Thanks so much for joining me. Remember, God sees you and knows your need. Thanks for joining me on the Untangling Prayer podcast. If this episode resonated with you, share it with someone who could use a little hope. And be sure to subscribe for more. Until next time, keep seeking, keep trusting, and keep praying.
Many of us feel hurried. And did you know that being in a hurry is costing us more than we realize? Hi, I'm Jem Fadling, co-host of Unhurried Living, where my husband Alan and I help people learn to live and lead from fullness rather than on empty. We provide resources and training to teach you healthy patterns for rest, work, and spiritual connection. With more than 25 years of experience at the intersection of spiritual formation and leadership development, Unhurried Living seeks to inspire others to rest deeper, live fuller, and lead better. Join us each week as we continue to have conversations about leadership, soul care, the power of prayer, and much more. You can find Unhurried Living at lifeaudio.com and on your favorite podcasting app.